In the gilded halls of Asgard, where the laughter of gods echoes like thunder and the mead flows in endless rivers, there exists a profound misunderstanding of power. We often equate strength with the roar of Thor's hammer or the piercing gaze of Odin's remaining eye. But there is a quieter, more ancient form of resilience that resides in the shadows of the Great Hall. It is the strength of the heart that refuses to break, even when the foundations of the world tremble. Today we delve into a tale often whispered, but rarely told. The story of a goddess who understood that some burdens are too heavy for tears, and that silence can be a fortress more impenetrable than any stone wall. We explore the legend of Gefjon, or perhaps the hidden side of Frigg herself, reflecting on the sacred boundary between public grief and private resolve. In a world that demands we pour ourselves out, what does it mean to hold back? What power lies in the refusal to cry? Frigg, the queen of Asgard, sits at her spinning wheel, her fingers dancing across threads of clouds and fate. She is the only one, aside from Odin, who knows the destinies of all beings, yet she is bound by a divine law of silence. To know the future is to carry the weight of every tragedy before it happens. Imagine the discipline required to look into the eyes of your beloved son, Balder, knowing the mistletoe is already growing, and yet maintain a face of serene composure. This isn't coldness. It is an ultimate form of emotional stewardship. While the other gods feast and boast, Frigg weaves the fabric of reality with a steady hand. She understands that if the queen falters, the realm follows. Her resilience is not born of a lack of feeling, but from a depth of feeling so vast it cannot be expressed in mere droplets of salt water. She is the anchor of the Aesir, the silent witness to the unfolding of time, proving that true authority is often found in the quietest moments of endurance. Then there is Gefjon, the goddess of the plowed earth, a figure of grit and transformation. When she approached King Gylfi of Sweden, she didn't ask for charity. She offered a display of wit and labor. The king underestimated her, promised her as much land as 4 oxen could plow in a day and a night. Gefjon did not weep at the impossibility of the task or the sting of the king's dismissive smile. Instead, she reached into the depths of her own lineage, summoning her 4 giant sons and transforming them into massive oxen. With a resolve that bypassed the need for complaint, she drove them so hard that the very earth groaned. She didn't seek pity for her toil, she sought results. Her silence during the labor was her fuel. By the time the sun rose, she had carved out the entire island of Zealand from the Swedish soil, dragging it into the sea. She transformed a mockery into a kingdom, showing us that when we refuse to leak our energy through lamentation, we can move mountains or islands. In the Norse tradition, tears are often literal gold. When Freya weeps for her lost husband, her tears turn to amber or precious metal. There is beauty in that release, certainly, but Gefjon and Frigg represent the gold that remains unminted, the wealth of the spirit that stays within. There is a specific myth where the gods are tested by the giants, forced to endure sights of great sorrow to prove their divinity. While many succumbed to the catharsis of weeping, the goddess of the refusal stood firm. Her eyes remained clear, not because she was unfeeling, but because she recognized the trap of the adversary. To cry in that moment would be to surrender her agency to the one who caused the pain. By withholding her tears, she maintained her sovereignty. She demonstrated that her emotional state was not a commodity to be harvested by others. This is the lesson of inner power. Your vulnerability is a treasure, and you are the only one who decides when and if it is shared with the world.
Silence is often mistaken for emptiness, but in the Norse mysteries, it is the womb of creation. Before the world was, there was Ginnungagap, the great void. The goddess who refuses to cry is tapping into that primordial stillness. When we experience trauma or hardship, our first instinct is often to externalize it, to scream into the void. But there is a path of inner alchemy where the heat of the emotion is used to forge something new rather than being steamed away in a sob. Think of the blacksmith's forge. If the water is poured on too early, the steel becomes brittle. By containing the fire of her grief, the goddess tempers her soul. She becomes like the Yggdrasil itself, deeply rooted, enduring the nibbling of the dragon Nidhogg at her roots without swaying. This slide of the story reminds us that holding our peace isn't about repression, it's about transformation. It's about taking the raw, burning energy of pain and turning it into the cool, hard edge of wisdom and survival.
There comes a moment in every hero's journey where the pressure becomes absolute. For Frigg, it was the actual death of Balder. The myths tell us she went to every corner of the world to ask everything to weep for him, to bring him back from hell. This is the irony. She orchestrated the world's grief while maintaining her own regal stature. She became the catalyst for the universe's mourning because she had the structural integrity to lead it. She shows us that there is a time to mobilize the emotions of the collective, but the leader must remain the eye of the storm. Her refusal to break down in a way that rendered her useless was her greatest gift to the Aesir. It allowed for the hope of a new world after Ragnarok. This resilience is the silent strength, the ability to witness the end of an era and still have the steady hands required to plant the seeds for the next one. It is the realization that while the heart may be breaking, the spirit remains unbowed. How does this ancient Norse wisdom translate to our lives today? We live in an era of performative vulnerability, where we are often pressured to share our darkest moments for validation. The story of the goddess who refused to cry offers a counter-narrative, the sacred privacy of the soul. It teaches us that you don't owe your tears to anyone. Your resilience is yours to define. Whether you are navigating a difficult career, a personal loss, or the general chaos of the world, you can draw on the energy of Gefjon. You can choose to channel your feelings into your plow, into your work, your art, or your boundaries. This isn't about being tough in a toxic way. It's about being contained in a powerful way. It's about knowing that your inner world is a sanctuary that no one can enter without your permission. You are the queen of your own Asgard, and you hold the threads of your own fate. As we close this chapter of Norse lore, we look at the landscape of our own lives. We see the islands we have moved and the destinies we have woven. The goddess who refused to cry doesn't end her story in bitterness. She ends it in peace. She sits back at her hearth, the work done, the realm protected, and the earth tilled. Her power wasn't in the absence of pain, but in her mastery over it. The legacy of Gefjon and Frigg is a reminder that you are stronger than your most difficult day. Your tears are jewels, yes, but your dry eyes are mirrors reflecting a spirit that cannot be conquered. Next time you feel the world pressing in, remember the silent strength of the North. Take a breath, find your center, and know that like the goddesses of old, you have the power to hold the world together, one silent, resilient moment at a time. The storm may rage, but you are the mountain.